Hello, friends. Are you ready to hear the rest of the tale? Then let us commence. Last time, the heroes defeated a contingent of the strange cult of Shadar-Kai zealots only to lose the crate they had travelled to Plaguemort for in the first place to another group of the cultists. And, oh yeah, the mage mob had showed up too, just for giggles. So, with that, our intrepid gang of scrappy fools did what only they would be scrappy and foolish enough to do. Head to a temple of Orcus in the Outlands and try to stop a dark ritual meant to free the bloodthirsty cult's undead messiah just so they can cash a few GPs. Are you ready for this one? Okay. Heading into the Outlands beyond the gates of Plaguemort, the heroes travel eventually finding the Canyon of Collapse and, soon after, the large rock formation where the temple is built on top of. An ominous and extremely unnatural-seeming storm is brewing up there as well. Before ascending, they investigate a strange light in the distance. They discover a malfunctioning gate that seems to be in a permanent loop that destroyed its last traveller. It appears to be malfunctioning in the same manner as the gate they encountered when they first arrived in Plaguemort. Nearby, they find a secret hideout with several artifacts that, it seems, belong to the now-doomed portal traveller. Finders keepers, I guess. At the end of it all, however, the malfunctioning gate somehow affected Braze, and before anyone can say Dragonborn Sorcerer, Minko appeared in the, Dragonborn Sorcerer's place. Determined and somewhat desperate, they begin ascending the huge rock, soon encountering some of the cultists, and, eventually, a showdown with Lennox, Serla, and Edrinil, Svatan's remaining lieutenants. Defeating the elite fighters after an extremely difficult battle, the heroes head to the final confrontation with the cult, and whatever force their ritual will unleash. Although, and maybe you're detecting a pattern here, Minko was also knocked out in the battle, leaving our beloved and cantankerous Dragonborn, Braze, back in the fight. The heroes enter the temple and discover a harrowing sight. Cultists are being used to power the blood ritual that Svatan is conducting. The Shadar-Kai cult leader acknowledges the heroes' presence by saying,
"You can die, knowing you stood as witness to the birth of a new age."
Soon after arriving, the heroes see that the crate contained a strange glass cylinder full of a swirling red liquid. As the heroes battle their way through cultists, shadows, and Svatan, the cylinder explodes into a large necrocore, a sentient undead blood pool that Svatan appears to be empowering with eldritch energy. That is certainly dark and horrific, isn't it? Eventually, the ritual succeeds and the blood coalesces into what is most certainly an imposing and powerful undead female figure, who says,
"You knew me once, by another name, and another still. Consider my debt to you fulfilled beyond measure." And now,
Eternity.
and with that, I'm going to say Lich, teleported Svatan and herself away, and with a huge wave of necrotic force destroyed the temple and the remaining cultists, while somehow sparing the confused and shaken heroes. Dejected, the heroes returned to Sigil. A little beat up, but still breathing after their run-in with a blood-obsessed cult and their newly freed Lich deity. Things began to turn around a bit as Balg made sure our friends were still paid by the House of the Unbroken Rings for their work. And they were even offered a new job by the same client they were supposed to retrieve the crate for. Nice! With a little extra time on their hands, they sold some of the loot they procured and purchased some interesting items with the spoils. Also, they investigated their origins further, circling back with paranormal investigator extraordinaire, Rylance Hook. Hook and Dr. Sarjalev had formed a partnership, investigating out of the Resolute Sleuth's cool office in the Clerk's ward. Hook had found out some information about the ectoplasm sample the heroes had left with them, and the group headed with them to meet Dr. Professor Quentinjamin Welling Heatherton, a gnome scientist who specialized in the borders between the arcane and the mundane. The Doctor Professor used a special device that determined where any object, material, or being is from, based on its internal frequency, similar to how keys from specific planes are needed to travel between them. He determined that the ectoplasm was from a material plane world known as Imperial Center. But also, there was a different frequency in there as well, one that is not accounted for in the records, at least not yet. And it was a frequency that had been added, but to what end? The Doctor Professor suggested that it may have been added as a key or pass to enter a realm that is off-limits to anyone who doesn't have the frequency. Again, like a portal key. Also, Welling Heatherton had inquired with a Mercy Killer contact about the ectoplasm, and learned that there was a cold case crime that featured ectoplasm as well. A while back in the ladies' ward, at a Golden Lord's mansion, one Lord Wakesgold. Finally, the party had the Doctor Professor run a frequency check on the mysterious scroll case they had found during the Unholy Rainer adventure. Shockingly, the scroll case had the same hidden frequency as the ectoplasm. Whoa! That is one great twist, innit? The heroes asked if the gnome Doctor Professor could make a portable device able to detect specific frequencies of this sort, and he said that for a price and with time, he certainly could. Leaving the Doctor Professor, Rylance and Dr. Lev, the companions ran into Titian Van Turn, their vampire friend from the bloodline. Titian invited them to the Black Masquerade's big Mortis Festival bash. Mortis Festival was a sort of Day of the Dead, celebrated by much of Sigil, and it was right around the corner. Afterwards, the party searched out their wizard ally, the Gateseeker Lysandra. Finding her in her usual hangout, the Sleeping Dragon, they informed her of what happened in Plaguemore, including the rebirth of the Lich and the malfunctioning gate. Lysandra remained as aloof as usual, but mentioned she would bring it up to her colleagues. Then she asked the heroes to accompany her in investigating a rumour of a glitching gate in the Slags. They agreed and prepared to meet with the circumspect wizard and one of her companions the next day. Meeting back at the Sleeping Dragon the next morning, the heroes were introduced to one of Lysandra's companions, a wizard named Celinda Darman, a haughty though obviously capable mage. With introductions kept short, the group teleported away to the general area of the reported malfunctioning gate in the Slags. Soon, the companions discovered the gate, which was very obviously malfunctioning, looking a lot like the other glitching gates the heroes had seen recently, truth be told. But worse, there was a large tribe of cannibals performing some sort of ritual with a seemingly delusional and ranting dwarf tied to a stake in front of the gate. The strange arcane lightning the heroes had seen before intermittently flared from the portal, and wild magic flooded the area. The group hurriedly crafted a plan. Lysandra and Braze would sneak to the gate in an attempt to fix it while the rest, led by Celinda, engaged the cannibals. The battle began easily enough, with the heroes holding their own, and Celinda demonstrating her power as she dispatched many of the insane cannibals on her own. Meanwhile, Bryce and Lysandra slowly but surely made their way to the gate. Suddenly, the gate pulsed open, and a terrifying and powerful eldritch creature arrived from beyond and began destroying all in its path. Not wasting any time, Lysandra and Brace entered the gate, not knowing where they would end up. Eventually, the heroes helped subdue the rest of the cannibals, the ones not destroyed by the eldritch terror, while Celinda banished the creature back to whatever realm it came from. The dwarf, who was somehow still alive, was named Garamundi, and he appeared to be a sage of sorts, delusional, but strangely prophetic. He shared a strange and cryptic prophecy with the heroes.
Behind the first door, a warning. Behind the second door, an illusion. Behind the third door, a choice. Behind the fourth door, a beginning, an end, and a beginning again.
Unsurprisingly, the heroes were uncertain what the prophecy meant. For now. On the other side of the portal, Brace and Lysandra found themselves on a post-apocalyptic world, one flaring with the same red energy that had been emitting from the glitching gate. Investigating around the portal, Lysandra learned that the ruined world had been known as Tellin, a prime material world that was now sundered on a fundamental level by whatever had been glitching the gates. Lysandra conjectured that whatever had happened seemed to be some sort of condition that had seeped into the world through the portals, like a disease, and that this may be something that was planned and, following her hypothesis, something that could infect the entire multiverse at some point. Lysandra hoped to cut the gate off from the rest of the multiverse to slow things down and began preparing a ritual. Hey, you don't think that Asimar lady who was going around messing with and destroying gates has anything at all remotely to do with all of this? Do you? I mean, She seemed so sad and dark and, definitely really, really sullen, and then all dressed up in that morose clothing. But to do something like this... Well, just then, strange, glitching wraiths began converging on the two magic users' position, looking threatening and most certainly deadly, and I'm afraid it's going to be some time before we find out what happens next, my friends.